سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
الله أكبر. استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر.
سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد، وتقبل شفاعته في أمته وارفع درجته بحول الله وقوته. يقوم الله أكبر.
سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر.
سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليك. الله أكبر.
سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته يقوم وأقعد. الله أكبر.
سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر.
سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
الله أكبر. أستغفرك يا ربي وأتوب إليك. الله أكبر.
سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف.
الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض. من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء. وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض ولا يؤوده حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم. لا إكراه في الدين قد تبين الرشد من الغي. فمن يكفر بالطاغوت ويؤمن بالله فقد استمسك بالعروة الوثقى لا انفصام لها والله سميع عليم. الله ولي الذين آمنوا يخرجهم من الظلمات إلى النور والذين كفروا أولياؤهم الطاغوت يخرجونهم من النور إلى الظلمات أولئك أصحاب النار هم فيها خالدون. Two more. ठीक है? Yeah, those actually two more. Go ahead. Continue. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Shahidallahu annahu la ilaha illa huwa الدين عند الله الإسلام وما اختلف الذين أوتوا الكتاب إلا من بعد ما جاءهم العلم بغيا بينهم ومن يكفر بآيات الله فإن الله سريع الحساب اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل اللهم مالك الملك تؤتي الملك من تشاء وتنزل الملك ممن تشاء وتعز من تشاء وتذل من تشاء بيدك الخير إنك على كل شيء قدير تولج الليل في النهار وتولج النهار في الليل وتخرج الحي من الميت وتخرج الميت من الحي وترزق من تشاء بغير حساب.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. إلهي عظم البلاء وبرح الخفاء وانكشف الغطاء وانقطع الرجاء وضاقت الأرض ومنعت السماء وأنت المستعان وعليك المشتقى وعليك المعول في شدة والرخاء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أولي الأمر الذين فرض علينا طاعتهم وعرفتنا بذلك منزلتهم وفرج عنا بحقهم فرجا عاجلا قريبا كلمح البصر أو هو أقرب يا محمد يا لمح البصر أو هو أقرب يا محمد اكفياني فإنكما كافيان وانصراني فإنكما ناصران يا مولانا يا صاحب الزمان الغوث 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 أدركني 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 يا ساعة 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 العجل 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 برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا محمد بن عبد الله. السلام عليك يا علي أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا فاطمة سيدة النساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا خديجة الكبرى من المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة النساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله الحسين الشهيد بكربلاء. السلام عليك يا علي زين العابدين. السلام عليك يا محمد الباقر. السلام عليك يا جعفر الصادق. السلام عليك يا موسى الكاظم. السلام عليك يا علي الرضا. السلام عليك يا محمد التقي الجواد. السلام عليك يا علي بن محمد الهادي. السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي العسكري. السلام عليك يا حجة بن الحسن يا صاحب السمان. السلام عليك يا إمام الناس والجان. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
So yeah, your friend can't tell me that. You haven't go out. First I had at first I had a weak personality. He kept telling me like yeah. And then like 4 weeks before, this is okay, we're at least trying. We're at least trying. No, we're at least trying. This is but some so that's what I didn't on the speaker last time. Last night. So yeah, we're still waiting for them. Kind of is a marathon.
Sorry.
How's school? Done? No, I'm not done. I am inshallah graduate next fall. Awesome. Yes. This semester is very important. Probably the most general practice. But fortunately, it's still online because of variants. Right. Yes. So that's good. Still tough teacher. The exams are going to be in person. Lectures are going to be online. But yeah. But I don't have to go. I don't for the exam, final. So yeah, I go on LinkedIn and I see these construction companies like WSP and like all these random construction companies like looking up on LinkedIn. I'm like, okay, we know somewhere like this.
So you want to do after you get done?
I want to be employed.
Where? Obviously, but I want to.
No, I don't like saying the word work. It's like I know it's like I know it's like a minor.
Me too. Yeah, like
I don't want to be.
that's why I was on the job class by you. So,
But I've done most, if not only, intensive field work and like improvement, and like concrete materials testing, a lot of types of stuff. I haven't done any like AutoCAD, any computer, any office work, and it's I want to get some office work. Well, in the end, I want to get more experience. I've applied to places. I think I told you I want to decide to apply to. Maybe I didn't do. But they interview like a ton of candidates, and at the end of it, I keep on following up with them. They didn't decide to put that application to everyone. They didn't know anyone. So I was like, and because the guy manager for the company was like, "Now we think our staff is fine."
these are the ones. Yes. Sure. You should be getting another 30, 40 minutes. Yeah. There's traffic in New York. Yeah. Gotta get it. I mean, we didn't start it. I can do the project, and then until they comes. I'll do it. Right there. Most of them do not say, yeah, take it. And then we'll wait for this video to get. So. Okay, take it. Take it, no problem. Take it, no problem. Yeah, so it'll be
Okay, it's gonna be some anonymous things. I'm gonna be that good at money. Let's start.
Yes.
I'll start. I'll do it, but
What?
here's about the first.
Yeah. بل محمد وآل محمد صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم. الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم.
لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض ولا يؤوده حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم لا إكراه في الدين قد تبين الرشد من الغي فمن يكفر بالطاغوت ويؤمن بالله فقد استمسك بالعروة الوثقى لا انفصام لها والله سميع عليم الله ولي الذين آمنوا يخرجهم من الظلمات إلى النور والذين كفروا أولياءهم الطاغوت يخرجونهم من النور إلى الظلمات أولئك أصحاب النار هم فيها خالدون صلوات على محمد وعلى محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
Inshallah, with your du'as and with the shifa of the intercession of the Mahsumeen, we pray that our actions be successful. Next, I would like to invite Musa Panjwani to recite Tilawat al-Quran and Hadith al-Qisar. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد.
صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام بنت رسول الله قال سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال السلام عليك يا فاطمة فقلت عليك السلام قال إني أجد في بداني ضعفا فقلت له أوئذك بالله يا أبتا كن من الضعف فقال يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطني به فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمة فقلت وعليك السلام يا قر عيني وثمرة فؤادي فقال يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله. فقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جدة يا رسول الله يتعظم لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء. فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي قد أذنت لك فدخل معك تحت الكساء. فما كانت إلا ساعة واحدة بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمة. فقلت وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويقر عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي يا أمة إني أشم عندك راية طيبة كأنها راية جدي رسول الله. فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جدة السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله أتعلم لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء. فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافي أمتي قد أذنت لك فدخل معكما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك راية طيبة كأنها راية أخي وابن أمير رسول الله. فقلت نعم ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله أتعذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء. قال له وعليك السلام يا أخي يا وسيم وخالفتي وصاحب لوائي قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبدا يا رسول الله يتعذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء. قال وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بداتي قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرف الكساء وأومأ بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحمتي لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي يؤلمون ما يؤلمون ويحزنون ما يحزنون. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم مسلم لمن صالحهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم إنهم مني وأنا منهم. فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على فقال الله عز وجل يا ملائكتي ويا سكان السماوات إني ما خلقت السماء مبنية ولا أرضا مبنية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبات هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الآمن جبرائيل يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء. فقال عز وجل لكم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن رسالتكم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. اللهم صل على فقال جبرائيل يا ربي تعذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معكم سادسا. فقال قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمير جبرائيل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت السماء مبنية ولا أرضا مطهية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحباتكم. وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم فلتعذنوا لي يا رسول الله. فقال يا رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمي وهي الله إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء. إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على وقال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيئاتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لكم إلى أن يتفرقوا. وقال علي إذا والله فزنا وشيئاتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال أبي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيئاتنا بمهبينا وفيه مهموم إلا وفرج الله همه ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي إذا والله فزنا وسيدنا وكذلك شيئاتنا فازوا وسيدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. اللهم صل على
بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات. Ahsant Musa, thank you so much for that beautiful recitation of Hadith-e-Kisa for his family and the marhum of his family and for his maghfirat, and please recite a lot of salawat. As you know, this majlis is started by the youth of Mehfil called Ansaar-e-Shaahe Khorasan. So on behalf of Ansaar-e-Shaahe Khorasan, I would like to thank everybody who came here. I would like to especially thank Musa for the beautiful recitation of Hadith-e-Kisa. Next, I would ask Misam Panjwani to come up and recite a surah. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
देखा जब बाप का लाशा तो सकीना रोई। देखा जब बाप का लाशा तो सकीना शिमर ने मारा जो दुर्रा, शिमर ने मारा जो दुर्रा तो सकीना रोई। देखा जब बाप का लाशा तो सकीना रोई। ना मेरा पानी उसे आग बुझाने के लिए, ना मिला पानी उसे आग बुझाने के लिए। जल गया भाई का चूल्हा, जल गया भाई का चूल्हा तो सकीना रोई। देखा जब बाप का लाशा तो सकीना रोई। और कर सर पेरेदा कान में दुर पहने हुए, और कर सर पेरेदा कान में दुर पहने हुए। सामने आई जो रमला, सामने आई जो रमला तो सकीना रोई। देखा जब बाप का लाशा तो सकीना रोई। मार कर कर सैयद मजलूम के होठों पे शरीक, मार कर सैयद मजलूम के होठों पे चरी। जब हंसा हाकिम कूफा, जब हंसा हाकिम कूफा, तो सकीना रोई। देखा जब बाप का लाशा, तो सकीना रोई। चाहती थी के बोले आए उसे खैमे में, चाहती थी के बोले आए उसे खैमे में। बाप का लाशा न उठा, बाप का लाशा न उठा, तो सकीना रोई। देखा जब बाप का लाशा, तो सकीना रोई। सलमान।
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. Thank you, Misam Panjwani, for that beautiful salam. Thank you, everybody, again for coming today. Inshallah, for Misam Panjwani and to elevate his stance as a reciter in the Bargah, Muhammad Ali Muhammad, please recite a lot salawat. Just as a side note, I was talking to my father a while ago, and I was talking about Panjwani uncle and how he helped his father, and now how his son is helping his father. So this is just the barakah of the Ahlul Bayt that goes on in generations, whereby through the help of the parents, the continuation of the Zakiri of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad continues. And as an older brother for them, I pray that and as a brother for their father and as a son for their grandfather, I pray that the Zakiri of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad continues in their lineage, inshallah ta'ala. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Brothers and sisters, our speaker is a little bit late, so inshallah, we have to make up a little bit time for him. Inshallah, he will be coming maybe in the next 15-20 minutes. So inshallah, we will have him recite. Next, I would request Brother Mehfil Hussain to come up to recite Soz and Marsiyah. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
ऐ गैरत मरियम तेरा बाजार में जाना, ऐ गैरत मरियम तेरा बाजार में जाना, ना भूल सकेगा इस ताशर ज़माना, ना भूल सकेगा इस ताशर ज़माना। ऐ गैरत मरियम तेरा बाजार में जाना, ऐ गैरत मरियम तेरा बाजार में जाना। क्यों ज़ैनब कुलसूम की छिनती है रिदाएं, क्यों ज़ैनब कुलसूम की छिनती है रिदाएं। जाओ ऐ लोगों मेरे गाजी को बुलाना, जाओ ऐ लोगों मेरे गाजी को बुलाना, ना भूल सकेगा इस ताहशर ज़माना। ऐ गैरत मरियम तेरा बाजार में जाना, जिस दर पे सलामी दिया करते थे पैगंबर, जिस दर पे सलामी दिया करते थे पैगंबर। ठहरो ऐ मुसलमानों वही घर न जलाना, ठहरो ऐ मुसलमानों वही घर न जलाना, ना भूल सकेगा इस ताहशर ज़माना। ऐ गैरत मरियम तेरा बाजार में जाना। सलवात। मर जाए जो शोहर तो पन्हा देते हैं भाई, मर जाए जो शोहर तो पन्हा देते हैं भाई। कुबरा कहा जाए न रहा कोई ठिकाना, कुबरा कह जाए न रहा कोई ठिकाना, ना भूल सकेगा इस ताहशर ज़माना। ऐ गैरत मरियम तेरा बाजार में जाना, ये मजलिस-ओ मातम की बिना तेरे ही दम से, ये मजलिस-ओ मातम की बिना तेरे ही दम से, पाया है अज़ादार ने बख्शिश का बहाना, पाया है अज़ादार ने बख्शिश का बहाना, ना भूल सकेगा इस ताहशर ज़माना। ऐ गैरत मरियम तेरा बाजार में जाना। सल्लल्लाहु टाइम की बारिश से मैं एक और सोच कर लूँ। गम शबीर अमानत है मेरे सीने में, गम शबीर अमानत है मेरे सीने में, एक यही बात है जो दिल है लगा जीने में, गम शबीर अमानत है। तेरा बंदा ये अली है के खुदाया तूने, तेरा बंदा ये अली है के खुदाया तूने, अपनी तस्वीर सजा रखी है आईने में, गम शबीर अमानत है मेरे सीने में। रन में हम शक्ल पैगंबर को न भेजे मौला, रन में हम शक्ल पैगंबर को न भेजे मौला, कोई बरछी न उतर आए कहीं सीने में, गम शबीर अमानत है मेरे सीने में। ये मुसलमान अजब दुश्मन पैगंबर हैं, ये मुसलमान अजब दुश्मन पैगंबर हैं, देख सकते नहीं तस्वीर भी आईने में, गम शबीर अमानत है मेरे सीने में। हमसे क्या पूछत हो उल्फत हैदर, हमसे क्या पूछत हो उल्फत हैदर का मजा, हमसे क्या पूछते हो उल्फत हैदर का मजा, उम्र गुजरी है मैं हुब्बे अली पे आईने में, गम शबीर अमानत है। सलवात। हासिल जिसे मौला की हुजूरी हो जाए, दुनिया के गमोरंज से दूरी हो जाए, ऐसा ले अला मजलिस पुरनूर हुसैन, नारी भी अगर आए तो नूरी हो जाए। Hussain, Badshah hast Hussain, Shast Hussain, Badshah hast Hussain, Di hast Hussain, Di panah hast Hussain, Di hast Hussain, Di panah hast Hussain, Sardad nadar, Dast dar dast Yazid, Haqqaj bin Ilahast Hussain, Shahast Hussain, Badshah hast Hussain. Salawat.
Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad salawat. On behalf of the Mehfil youth community, I would like to thank Brother Mohsin Hussain to come up who came up and recited this beautiful pieces of poetry for the elevation of his stance in front of the Bargah of Muhammad and on Muhammad. Please recite aloud salawat. The speaker is just a little bit away, so inshallah, just to cut the time. Do you want to recite again? Sure. Let us recite salawat for Brother Mohsin Hussain again to come and recite salawat.
Al Imran ne kaha aur zinda ne kaha, ye bahan qaid hui, tu na ya ghazi, jabr dasar se chini, main sada देती रही, तू ना या गाजी, हमको पानी ना मिले, तेरी खुशबू तो रहे, तेरे बाजू ना कटे, चाहे मशकी जाची दे, ये मगर हो ना सका, तेरे बाजू है जुदा, मुझ पे है तशनाबी, तू ना या गाजी, जबरदा सर से छिनी, मैं सदा देती रही, तू ना बरहना मेरा सर, क्या नहीं तुझको खबर, ए अलमदार वफा, इस बहन को बाखुदा, तुझसे ढारस थी बड़ी, तू नाया गाजी, जबरदासर से छिनी, मैं सदा देती रही, तू नाया गाजी। सवाल आ गई शाम अलम, लुट गए हैं हरम, रेत पर जलती हुई हो गया ठंडा दम, पुरसा देने के लिए, मुझसे मिलने के लिए, आ गए बाबाली, तू नाया गाजी, जबरदासर से चुनी, मैं सदा देती रही, तू नाया गाजी। सलवात।
आज भी ज़ैनब की आती है सदा भाई हुसैन, तेरा चेहरा तेरी आँखें फूल कब पाई हुसैन, आज भी ज़ैनब की आती सदा भाई हुसैन, चलते ना कैसे गिराया, खुद को जलती रेत पर, चलते ना कैसे गिराया, खुद को जलती रेत पर, घुटनियों के बल में तेरी लाश तक आई हुसैन, आज भी ज़ैनब की आती सदा भाई हुसैन, बस में घबराई थी खंजर, तुझ पे चलता देख कर, बस में घबराई थी खंजर, तुझ पे चलता देख कर, किसी मुश्किल में गिर कर मैं ना घबराई हुसैन, आज भी ज़ैनब की आती है सदा भाई हुसैन, कौन था जो मरने वालों मैं नहीं था रूबरू कौन था जो मरने वालों मैं नहीं था रूबरू भूलने बैठी तो किस किस की ना याद आई हुसैन आज भी ज़ैनब की आती है सदा भाई हुसैन सलवात
It's just a kill time to have speaker for that, so I'll recite a little something, inshallah. Salawat ala Muhammad on Muhammad.
Like I said, our speaker is maybe 15-20 minutes away. So inshallah, by the time he gets here, we will have the proper majlis. I just want to thank everybody again for coming here, for reciting and participating, for the elevation of the stance of all those who read today. Please recite the salawat in the barakah of Muhammad ala Muhammad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Like I said, I'm not reciting the majlis, so inshallah. The whole idea behind this group or the Ansaar-e-Shaahe Khorasan has been to provide a platform for anybody, all the youth who want to participate in community activities. I have to be honest, there have been previous attempts by previous generations to start youth groups, but they always fizzle out as the people get older and they move. There's been other youth groups that have been started. And the purpose of Ansaar-e-Shaahe Khorasan has really been for you guys, for anybody who is young and is just starting out, maybe in high school or in college. It's very important for people to have a connection to the center, to the Majalis of Imam Hussain. And it's very important because the reason why we are having this majlis specifically is that, is that there are reciters that have come in previous generations who have been recognized. But the idea is that there should be a platform for new reciters to come in and to recite. And that is why we have had this majlis today. Inshallah al-Aziz, with your prayers and du'as, we pray that with the barakat of Muhammad and al-Muhammad, that this will continue and that this will be better and this will improve, inshallah. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Salawat. What? In general, for the youth group? Sure. So it's, yeah.
That was a better idea. So what do you think we should do? But the idea behind the youth group was that it was created to facilitate events for those who are coming in and participating, but they don't have necessarily a voice. So we would provide a platform for having social events for the youth to come in and to actually participate. So we had, I believe we had a kahoot a while back in Ramadan, which was online, and they were planning to have other events, other social events, and there have been programs that exist in other communities. For example, there is a lively Muhammadiyya English program in Muhammadiyya in Patterson. I know, for example, in Chicago, Maulana Mehfil-e-Shahe has a very active youth group presence, and he is the leader of the youth movement over there. But for the past maybe 15, 20 years, there has not been anything for the youth of North Jersey, especially Mehfil-e-Shahe, and we have now Khatun-e-Jannah Center in Jersey City. And the whole idea was behind what we should be doing is to create and facilitate youth events, things that would be helpful for the youth. So inshallah, they were looking at when the Haram came in, and there were, it was an online programming mostly because of the COVID, but because now we have permission to have inside indoor gatherings, the idea was that, you know, what a better platform that we have. We don't have any better platform than Majlis-e-Imam Hussain to get people to get actively involved and encouraged and reciting. So that was the whole idea. And inshallah, we will be having future events that we're planning to have a career fair or a job fair and or college counseling sessions and all this type of stuff. So the whole idea was that we should provide that platform for the youth. That platform, which is very important. And inshallah, with your du'as, that will be successful. As we know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that the youth should respect their parents so much so that they should not even utter a single uff against their parents. That single uff is not acceptable in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the Quran, Allah says that we have to not only respect our parents, but respecting the parents has been tied towards and with the ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whereby ibadat comes first and then everything else comes. So the whole idea was to get youth activity and youth involvement and youth coming in. I know there were other programs through which the youth used to get involved, like for example, Shabadaris and the Majalis, but that had not been happening for some time. So for the younger generation, my generation is already reciting, they're already up there. But to give them a voice, to give them an avenue of approach, to give them a way, inshallah. Another idea which actually Brother Mohsen imposed was a book club that inshallah maybe after Muharram we can start sometime. If we can do it on site, that would be great. If we have to wait and do it online, so be it. But inshallah, that was the whole idea of the youth group. And we understand that as followers of the school of Ahlul Bayt, we have the best example of what it means to be a youth. So for example, we have Ali Akbar, we have Qasim, we have Imam Zainal Abidin. All these were youth in our modern terminologies when Karbala happened. And it's very easy for us to say we play a nice game, theoretically, but practically speaking, what do we do for the younger generation? That's the question. So that's part of the answer to that question. And inshallah, we will do further programming. Sister Salma Auntie proposed the idea of having the Mehfil youth group Ansaar-e-Shaahe, Khorasan. And my role is just as a back, somebody who just gives support for the youth to come in and recite and for the youth to participate. As I've said, you know, in my generation, we have, in the older generations, we have Maulana Rizwan, who's an MFI, who's also a product of the North Jersey community. We have Sheikh Fayaz and myself. But for the younger generation, it's very important for people to actively get involved. And that was actually a part of the last week or 2 weeks ago when we had the Majlis in my house. I had Maulana Mehfil talk, and the subject that I gave him was what is the ideal relationship between the youth and the ulama. And he mentioned a lot of times the youth, they leave the community because they don't have an avenue of approach where they can actually say, this event is for me. This event is specifically for people who are 15 to 25 years old, for example, 50 to 30 years old. It's usually the Maulana comes in, he lectures, and then the adults are on the Maulana, and there's no activity. For me, as somebody who wears the Aban Imama, that's not acceptable, and we need to have a more dynamic relationship. And inshallah al-Aziz, we will try our best to facilitate that type of environment. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Okay. Well, I'm just going to give it short much as we wait for our speaker. That's okay with you guys. Start it off, please. 10 minutes, yeah. Inshallah. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Inshallah, hopefully our speaker will be in momentarily. He is coming out of Queens and there's a marathon throughout the city. So he's blocked in traffic. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. I didn't come prepared with my garb or anything like that. So I was completely caught off guard. Allah salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا أبو القاسم المصطفى محمد وصلى اللهم على آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين المنتجبين قال الله الحكيم في القرآن الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الدين عند الله الإسلام. Salawat. When we say very simply that Islam is a religion of God, what does that mean? You see, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates mankind, He does this awesome act of creation where He creates ashraful makhluqat, or the best of creations. He places man first in paradise. And then man falls. But Allah, when He creates man, He does not say that mankind was created for paradise. وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. Allah says to the malaika, I seek to appoint on the earth a vicegerent. Somebody who will perform the acts of God on this earth. And I'm not going into ghulu or shirk, because God Himself wants man to embody the characteristics of God in his every aspect of his being. In Christianity, one of my favorite Sufi thinkers, he says about the Christian conception of God, that God became man so that man could become God. Meaning that God, through creating God the Son in Christianity, meaning Jesus, became man so that He could elevate the stance of mankind, so that mankind could reach that divine oneness. And that's what's important. It's not about prayer. It's not about salat, saum, zakat. It's not about that. It's not about sin even. It's not about just following the rules of fiqh. It's about implementing the rules of Islam in every aspect of your life, whereby you become the vessel for the embodiment of the divine attributes in your being. The Prophet never said that I have come to you to perfect your prayer, or that I have come to you to perfect your fasting, or that I've come to you to perfect your zakat. No, he says, I have come to you to perfect the nobility of your character. Makarimul akhlaq. Makarimul akhlaq. But sometimes, I have to be honest with you, people, and I was like that myself, people who start to follow religion become so rigid that they have a mind that's small, and they do not understand the full aspect of the implementation of the divine law. And as a Shia, as a follower of the school of Ahlul Bayt, and as a follower of Marja'iyyatul Diniyyatul Uliya, they say that, for example, you could, for example, compare Agha Sistani's ilm to the waters of the 7 oceans of the world. You can compare Imam Khomeini's ilm to the waters of the 7 oceans of the world. Or Hafiz Bashir or Sheikh Wahid or Ayatollah Makarim or Ayatollah Jawadi Amani, 7 oceans of the world. When you take that water and you want to pass that water through a channel that's this small, imagine how much resistance you're going to get. We need to have knowledge that's this big, or that's equivalent to the 7 oceans of the world. People sometimes, when they start following and they become so rigid in their ways, their mind becomes this small. And I believe that the purpose of creating youth groups in the United States of America in 2021 in New Jersey and Ansaar-e-Shaahe, Khorasan, or Muhammadiyah English program, and all these youth groups that exist, is to take the mind of the youth and instead of making it this small, make it this big. Why do I say that? Because religious individuals, a lot of times, they become the haram police. But if my teacher, Ayatollah Sabiri, in his Risala, not once does he actually mention, I believe, if I remember properly, any shari'i words. For he says, if that is going to create a negative attitude towards the religious action, what's the point of using the word? If I say haram, 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 or wajib, 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 and that word is making people so distasteful, maybe they've had previous experiences with people who are so rigid or inflexible that they don't want to have that. And once they see that word haram, 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 they automatically go back to that scene in their life where they were going through that experience. And they saw that one person who was the haram police or the wajib police or the sharia police. But the youth are not looking for that. In the United States of America, as a youth, you have a million options available for you that you can freely choose from millions of options. But if I say, you have to do this, you know what they're going to say? I don't have to do this. I have XYZ options. I have options to the end of the earth options. And this is one of the purposes of creating youth groups, I believe, in the West, to create a social network so vast that anybody who's falling through gets caught and they get lifted back up to the faith. It's non-judgmental. It's non-aggressive. It's non-forceful. It's there to facilitate a discussion about religion. And that's another important thing. Because when somebody becomes baligh in fiqh, they say that you have to do taqleed in fiqh. But then they say in usul al-din there is no taqleed. There's no taqleed in usul al-din. When we say that, we have to have the acceptance of all the options out there for the youth, so that when they find themselves questioning about God or justice, these are all logic, legitimate questions. I tell you, as a chaplain, I did an internship at New York Presbyterian, and you mention to some of these patients that God is merciful, they'll be like, what the hell are you talking about? Why is God merciful that I have a tumor the size of my leg and Donald Trump gets away with all the sins of the world? How does that make sense? So these are logical questions, and these questions will come. They will come to the lives of the youth. And if I say there is no taqleed in usul al-din, then I have to be ready for all the other options that are out there. Please recite salawat. If I say there is no taqleed in usul al-din, then I have to be accepting that people will test their faith in a good way. Test their faith in a logical and Islamically acceptable fashion. That seems kind of a contradiction. Testing your faith in a way that's acceptable to religion. But that's a good thing. As long as that testing leads to analysis and criticisms and conversation and dialogue. And of course, there is that question which I mentioned was the topic of the majlis at my house, the relationship between the youth and the ulama. I won't take more time. I don't know if the speaker is, how far he is, but inshallah, if he's not here by the time I finish, we'll conclude the majlis, inshallah. So the relationship between the youth and the ulama, that's very important. Because when we talk about that specific question, a lot of youth, they will say that the relationship that most ulama create is the my way or the highway relationship. Where if you don't follow everything that I say or do, goodbye, I'm not talking to you ever again. It's a relationship of submission. It's not a relationship of equal humanity. While I say that even sitting on the minbar, there's a two-way relationship between every individual. If I am sitting down and I'm just talking to you, that's a whole different relationship. The minbar has its place, but treating people like a human being has its place as well. As a chaplain, they teach you, you can't solve the world's problem. You don't have the degree for that. You're not a doctor, you're not a pharmacist, but you can sit with people and you can treat them like human beings. So that's the relationship that I want between the youth and the ulama, a relationship of humanity. A relationship which says, look, and I've been through American high school, so I've taken all the classes and I've seen the experience. If you want a youth in America to tell you everything about their life, the best thing to do is become their best friend. Not Maulana Sahab, not Alim Sahab, no, not Khatib, not Zakir. You just sit with them and say, look, I'm here for you. What's going on? I'm here for you as a friend. I'm concerned about something that's going on in your life or something doesn't seem right. Let's just talk about it. And the way they unwind the youth, I've experienced this myself. After you treat them like a human being. Growing up, I used to have that idea that alim belongs on the pedestal and the youth can never approach the alim. So in Ramadan, I remember it was a private question. I wanted my father to ask Sheikh Fadl Sahlani. We were going to Al-Khoi Islamic Center that night. It was our iftar in Ramadan, maybe when I was 15 or 14. And it was a really private question. I was like, Abu, I want you to ask the Sheikh this question. Abu takes me to the office, sits down, and Sheikh says, Sheikh, my son has a question for you. And he says, you ask the question. I asked the question. Sheikh Sahlani's face turned red after I asked the question. After that, I had no problem asking any alim any question because I felt that he was a human being. I felt that I could go and talk to him. That distance was done away with. And that is what we are here to talk about. Please recite salawat. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. That distance creates problems. And this is not just about being a speaker or a khatib. If I want, I'm not a parent yet, but if I want, as a parent, to talk to my youth about problems they're experiencing in their life, first of all, we have to understand that every individual is unique. The problem with the statement, I understand what you are going through, is that unless you actually went through the exact situation, exact same thing, that you cannot say that. That's belittling to the experience of the person. Therefore, when you say, I understand your experience is unique, and I'm trying to relate to that experience, but maybe you can help me relate to it even more. That builds a connection. There's not that many people here, but my parents were raised in Pakistan. They can't say what it feels like to go through an American high school. They can't. Or to go through a phys ed class, for example, where you're playing a contact sport with non-mahram. They can't experience that. Or to go through the ideas of the sexual education class, for example. They can't say they went through that. I can. Therefore, as somebody who puts on the Abba and the Imama, it's my responsibility to say, look, I've been through an American high school. I know the experiences of what it feels like. I have friends who are non-Muslim. I have friends who are Muslim who go through Islamic school, for example. By the way, in the Islamic school, they do the same exact thing, the youth. Because they live in a bubble when they're in from 8 to 3. They go out and they go out partying and they have all the same problems. That's because my honest answer to that is the alim needs to have that, what in Urdu they call wus'at qalbi and wus'at zihni, that open-mindedness, that open-heartedness, that everybody who falls through, you say, look, it's thank you for having the confidence if they come up to you and tell you a private situation. Thank you for having the confidence of telling me this, and I know, for example, if it's the first meeting that we've only met once, but I appreciate the fact that you have the confidence and the character building and the self-respect and the respect for me that you come to me for this answer. It's very important. That relationship does not exist unless your father is a Maulana or your grandfather is a Maulana or your uncle or nephews are Maulana. That relationship does not exist. And of course, in Karbala, we have the embodiment of that relationship. For example, they say, Al-ulama warathatul anbiya. Okay, Sallallahu ala Muhammad ala Muhammad. Good news, the speaker is 8 minutes away, so I'll get off when he gets here. So I won't even recite the musibah, so he'll get the chance to do that. Ulama warathatul anbiya. What does that mean? Ulama are the representatives or the successors to the prophets. What does that mean? Ulama as successors to the prophet. First of all, if you want to call yourself a successor to a prophet, you need to have the characteristics of the prophet. You need to have the open-mindedness, the respect for humanity that the prophets had, if you want to call yourself that. But within that statement is a very detailed comment or commentary as to the relationship between the people and the ulama. Your relationship to the ulama, or the people, or the ulama's relationship to people, should be the relationship of the prophets of God to people. Did the prophets of God defame any human being? No. Did they disrespect any human being? No. They respected, loved, and cared for every human being. And that's what my relationship with somebody who puts on the Abba and the Mamas with you, hopefully, inshallah. And in Karbala, we have the best example. You know, let me say this as a paraphrase. I don't usually mention this in majalis because mentioning history is not the purpose of the majlis, it's to give a lesson. But the different rawayat as to what happened in Karbala, so much so that one of my friends, he is an associate of Dr. Sayyid Hussain Nasr in the University of Washington or Georgetown, I think. George Washington University in Maryland, in DC. He asked him, what can we be sure about what happened in Karbala? He says the only thing we can be sure about is that Imam Hussain was shaheed. Everything else, scholars have debated that over the centuries. The idea of the act of Hazrat Qasim to Imam Hussein's daughter Fatima is something that's present in the Indo-Pak tradition. The act is present in the Indo-Pak tradition. And the whole reason behind that is that the youth should get married, yes, not wait, yes, but that the relationship between Imam Hussain and Hazrat Qasim was such, obviously he's not asking questions on the day of Ashura. He already knows those answers from his experiences with his uncle. He has that relationship with his uncle that he can go to him for anything. That is the perfect relationship between the youth and the alim. You have that relationship where you can go ask Maulana Sahab, this is the question that I'm facing in life. What should I do? My friends are dating, for example. What should I do? They want me to go to parties. What should I do? Or if you're working in a work situation, they have alcohol present at a business meeting. What should I do? Or my parents don't understand me. That's another thing that the youth ask. What should I do? My parents don't understand. They live the world away from where I live. I live in 2021, the United States of America. They were born in the 1950s or 40s in Pakistan. How do they know which world that I'm living in? These are not just fiqhi questions. These are whole akhlaqi chapters that can be discussed very easily and very openly. They need to be discussed very easily and very openly. Very openly. I'm not for forcing religion. If as a youth I was for that, but I've seen that has a negative effect. Please recite salawat. So that relationship between the youth and the ulama has to be one of mutual love, respect, and understanding. And I hope that we can do that for the future of our generation. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Maulana Saab's here. So please recite salawat. Again, I thank everybody who participated. Now I would like to request Brother Mu'izz to come and recite the majlis. Sallallahu ala Muhammad.
صلى على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله كما هو أهله والصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على أشرف الخلق والأنام حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين وصحبه المنتجبين ومن اتبعوهم بإحسان إلى قيام يوم الدين اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك وترحم وتحمل على محمد وآل محمد بأفضل ما صليت وسلمت وباركت وترحمت وتحننت على إبراهيم وآل إبراهيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات. So today we'll be talking about the Battle of Karbala and taking examples out of this great battle. We look at this battle, we commemorate the martyrdom of Imam Hussain and his Holy Family every single year. But in reality, Imam Hussain did not sacrifice his life or the life of his family so that we may just come here every year, listen and go home and do this repeatedly for 10 days, for 40 days, and for every year, and then go home and not change. So today we're going to look at significant players in the role of the Battle of Karbala, and today we're going to talk about this one man. May God curse him till the day of judgment, and after the day of judgment, his name was Umar ibn Sa'd. And Umar ibn Sa'd was a significant player in the Battle of Karbala. He was the commander of the army of Yazid against Imam Hussain in the land of Karbala. But to understand who this man was, we have to go a little bit back in history. So you may know that the brother, Imam Hussein's cousin, who he called brother, to Kufa after the Kufans invited Imam Hussain to come to Kufa and greet the people and stay there. So Imam Hussain sent Muslim Mehfil as an ambassador to the Kufan people. So once Muslim Mehfil arrived in Kufa, the governor, the leader of this empire, his name was Yazid, noticed that Muslim Mehfil was gaining the trust and loyalty of the people very, very quickly. And this was bad for his power because he wanted power, and Muslim ibn Aqid was a threat to that power. So Yazid was given a contact, Ibn Ziyad. He said, if you're ever in need, if you ever have this problem, and you need someone to gain power back, call Ibn Ziyad. Ibn Ziyad got the letter from Yazid that Yazid needed help in Kufa from Muslim ibn Aqid. They say Ibn Ziyad ran so quickly to Kufa that after he arrived in Kufa, his horse died. This was going so fast. Once he arrived in Kufa, Ibn Ziyad killed 10,000 people and slowly eliminating all of Muslim Naqid's companions, either by bribery. Bribery was the main source of dilution from Muslim Naqib. So we all know about the prayer situation where Muslim Naqib was leading prayers, and behind him he had a lot of companions. After he finished, he only had 3. And once he left the mosque, he had 0. So so this is Ibn Ziyad. Ibn Ziyad came after Muslim Naqib arrived in Kufa. So now we look at Umar ibn Sa'd. Ibn Ziyad gave the order to Umar ibn Sa'd to go to Karbala and intercept Imam Hussein's caravan from reaching Kufa. Imam Hussein's caravan already realized that Kufa was not a safe place to go. So they are already in Karbala. So Umar ibn Sa'd thought about it. He said, I'm not going to give you an answer right now. I'm going to think about it. And he was on and off. So he had friends, a lot of them. Some friends said, don't do it. It's the Ahlul Bayt. It's Imam Hussain, come on, think, what are you doing? Okay, Umar ibn Sa'd said, yes, okay, I won't do it. Then the other side, come on, man. Come on, go do it. Go, you'll have money, you'll have power. And Yazid also offered him a reward, Umar ibn Sa'd a reward. He said, if you go to Karbala right now and intercept this caravan, I'll give you a fertile land in Iran called Ray. I'll give you that, I'll make you the governor of that land, a very rich land that can make Umar ibn Sa'd very rich and powerful. So Umar ibn Sa'd said, okay, fine. I won't go to fight. I'll just go to negotiate with Imam Hussain and hopefully have him turn to you, turn to Yazid. Have Imam Hussain pledge his allegiance to Yazid. So Umar ibn Sa'd had these friends. He was on and off, contemplated. So once he arrives in Karbala, Imam Hussain arrived the second night of Muharram, second day of Muharram, and Umar ibn Sa'd arrived the third day. And Umar ibn Sa'd was still questioning what he was doing. He said, why am I doing this? Should I do this? Should I not? I want the land, but it's also the Ahlul Bayt. What do I do? And this prolonged the whole standoff for 10 days. And on the night of the 9th, Ibn Ziyad had enough. He saw that he was receiving letters from Umar ibn Sa'd and saw that Imam Hussein's army was weak and that it was a perfect time to strike. So he sent Shimr. Shimr came to Umar ibn Sa'd with a letter from Ibn Ziyad that said that Shimr was the second in command. And Shimr said, if you're not going to start war right now, I'm going to start it. Shimr was the man that was reckless, animal, did not care. He's killed people, he was ready to kill people, he was ready to slaughter the family of Imam Hussain. Umar ibn Sa'd at this point was still questioning his decision, why he was there, what was he doing. And at that moment, Umar ibn Sa'd had to make his stand on the ground. He took an arrow, launched it into the air, and said that I will start this war at my command. This is my war, I will start it. No one else would take power from me. So Shimr backed off. And this led for a longer night. This gave Imam Hussain an extra night and led to the start of the battle at the 10th. And now we think about this story of Umar ibn Sa'd, how his friends peer pressured him into doing such bad actions, even though his subconscious said that don't do it, it's the Ahlul Bayt. What are you doing? Umar ibn Sa'd was a normal person like any of us. He prayed, he fasted, he even prayed Salatul Layl. He used to wake up at night and pray these prayers. He was born into the Muslim culture. He was what you call a Muslim. Now we're Muslims here too, right? We can be either on the side of Imam Hussain or we can turn out like Umar ibn Sa'd. It's not, Shaitan is a very powerful being. He can divert someone from the right to the wrong very quickly. So we think about this and we think about how peer pressure affects us. and that the friends around us are make decisions for us. If you have a bad friend, the next 5 years, that friend will impact your next 5 years. If you have a good friend, that friend will impact your next 5 years as well. It's whatever friends you have, and that's the key to success. We think about this person and think about our times today. We had to sacrifice some time, some things, some people, so that we become one of the companions of Imam Hussain and become great, successful people, not only in this life, but in the hereafter. Salawat. So, back to Umar ibn Saad. Imam Hussain on the 9th asked Umar ibn Saad, "What are you doing? Why are you doing this?" Umar ibn Saad said, "I don't want to do this, but if I do this, I get a land in Ray. I become the governor of Ray." Imam Hussain quickly said, "You will not even eat the wheat of Ray." And Umar ibn Saad thought about it, but the thought of having Ray was so significant on him that he totally ignored it and led the battle on the 10th. And after the whole Battle of Karbala, Ray was not granted to Umar ibn Saad. Umar ibn Saad had nightmares after nightmares and after nightmares, and he quickly died like that. And you can relate this story to another person, a very famous person. You might have seen the picture where in South Africa, there's a little girl starving and there's a vulture behind it. And I wish I could show you the pictures, but it was a photographer caught this very powerful picture and made it viral. But it was a little Southern African girl starving, about to die, and a vulture behind it was watching. And this vulture was watching so that when the baby dies, it can prey on it. And this photographer took this picture, and this picture went viral everywhere. And as it went viral, he received a lot of rewards, became famous, had all the money in the world. But a few months later, he passed away. He passed away because of guilt. And you might ask, why? He had everything in this world. He had all the money, he had all the fame, he had all the rewards. He was successful, but he still committed suicide. And later it was found out that the cause of the suicide was because he found guilt. He had guilt in himself for that sin. He died the same way Umar ibn Saad did. He had nightmares after nightmares after nightmares and died. And we ask ourselves, and he went through the same situation. He was contemplating about it. And it was that he was told not to do it. It was that money he saw. And money is a thing that can quickly divert someone from the right path to the wrong path. It's so powerful. And in life, we look at this, and money has caused many of the youth, like you'll see, to go away from their dreams. If you have a dream, you set that dream and you go for that dream. And when you find an easy way, an easy path, you tend to take that easy path, which usually tends to lead you away from that dream. And Umar ibn Saad did that. He couldn't sacrifice his friends and money so that he took the easy route, got the easy life in this world, but yet he's in hell right now. He ruined his hereafter, but created a successful, easy life in this hereafter. Imam Hussain, on the other hand, did not care about this life. He cared about the hereafter. He lived a very painful life. Those 10 days were very painful. Those last 3 days, him and his family were thirsty. He lived a very painful life, but he has a great hereafter. All 72 of his companions have a great hereafter. So how do we become successful in this life? First of all, it's this friends we have. Our friends have a great impact on ourselves. If we have good friends, we'll have good outcomes. If we have bad friends, we have bad outcomes. And you also have to create goals for yourself. What are your goals? You have to look at yourself. Where am I right now? And how do people see me right now? People see me as a negative way. Do I want to be seen as that person? If someone sees me as this way, do I want to be seen as this way? And you slowly build a character for yourself. And from that character, you think about it. And you ask yourself, what am I doing? And if whatever I'm doing, is it what Imam Hussain would be proud of? And you think about it. And you create Ayatollah Khomeini, may God rest his soul, said one thing: try to live 30 days sinless. I want you guys to try this too. 30 days, just try something new, you know? Try something new. If you don't pray on time, try to pray on time. If you don't read, try to read a new book. Try something new and live on that 30 days and slowly build up so that you may achieve your goal. If you need to sacrifice things, sacrifice them. Sacrifice them. There's a kid in Dearborn. He was 18 years old in Dearborn, Michigan, and he had very bad friends, very, very bad friends. One of his friends used to work at a gas station. He said, let's steal some credit cards. Let's steal the information of the credit cards and we'll take money out of it. We'll take $10,000 out of the credits. No one will know where it came from. The banks are very loaded. They have billions of dollars. It won't affect them at all. And this friend really, he had a Umar ibn Saad moment. He thought about it and he said, no, it's wrong. But his friends kept peer pressuring him and he said, no, it's wrong. But his friends really insisted on it, but his subconscious beat the peer pressure from his friends. And he ultimately said no. His friends, 20 years later, his friends got arrested, and 20 years later, this friend came back to the friend that said no, to the boy that said no. And now he said, I came out of jail, my family hates me, I have zero money, I have no one to turn to but you. And he slowly walks into his office and notices a big office. He said, are you who I think you are? And the friend says yes. And the friend is just looking at this magnificent office. And the thing that happened with the boy that said no was that he is now the biggest salesperson in Dearborn and one of the biggest salespersons in the United States. He said no and he fought for what was right and he followed his dreams. Although the credit card way was such an easy way, he could have gotten thousands and 10,000, millions of dollars. But yet he chose the harder route and he ultimately gained great success. God says that if you work for it, you'll have great success. And so he worked for it and his friend gave him the money and said, don't pay me back. This other friend that was at the gas station, from the gas station, leaves and just cries. He said, that could have been me if I said no. That could have been me if I said no to wrong and said yes to right. And this is the types of situations that just divert kids from the Ahlul Bayt and Islam. And to follow your goals, you need great patience. And there's only one man. There is a lot of patience in Karbala. You notice a lot of patience, but specifically one brother of Imam Hussain showed the most patience, and his name was Abul Fadl Abbas. Abul Fadl Abbas was known as the great warrior of Karbala and one of the biggest warriors of Imam Ali's family. So they say that he was the replica of Imam Ali. He was so tall when he rode on his horse, narrations say that his foot used to drag. And on the 9th of Muharram, he was very patient. Imam Hussain knew that if he sent him out to war, Abul Fadl Abbas would destroy the whole army. So Imam Mullah Abbas used to circle the camps. He used to circle the camps and watch the camps. He used to defend the camps at night when everyone else was rested or in their tents. The day of Ashura comes and Abul Fadl Abbas is watching everyone get killed in front of him. Everyone was slaughtered, and he kept asking Imam Hussain for permission to go out. But Imam Hussain never granted him the permission to go fight. So one time, this girl who was 4 years old, her name was Ruqayya, Bibi Sakina, walked up to Imam Hussain and she said, "Oh, Uncle Abbas, I am very thirsty and the kids behind me are very thirsty. Oh Abbas, oh Uncle Abbas, can you bring us water and fulfill the thirst of these thirsty little kids?" Abul Fadl Abbas looks, he takes the pouch, the mashkiza, out of her hand, and he goes to Mullah Abbas. He says, "Oh master, these kids came up to me. Sakina came up to me. She is very thirsty. These kids are crying and they are very thirsty." Imam Hussain grants Mullah Abbas the permission to go get water but not to fight. Mullah Abbas goes, he takes the pouch and he runs into the battlefield. Mullah Abbas had a very strong reputation. He was a warrior. Once he started running towards the army, and the army slowly opened up like Musa opened up the sea. He starts going, he goes towards the river, and not one person attacked him during that phase. Everyone was scared, and they just watched Mullah Abbas. Mullah Abbas puts his pouch inside the water. He takes water and looks at the water. After filling up the pouch, he takes water in his hands, looks at it, and throws it on his face. His horse did not drink water either. He starts going towards the camp. Only one thought was in his mind. He thought about Sakina and the other thirsty little kids. He thought about giving them water and them drinking the water. He goes towards the camps. Umar ibn Sa'd and Shimr saw that Abbas was running away with the water. He ordered his army to attack from a distance. From a distance, the army took arrows. They launched the arrows at Mullah Abbas from all directions. Mullah Abbas was landed with arrows. One lion was standing behind a tree. He goes up to Mullah Abbas. He cuts off both his arms. Now Mullah Abbas is without an arm. He cannot fight. All he thinks about is still bringing water to the little kids. He puts the mashkiza in between his teeth and runs. Sakina is at the tent with her aunt Zainab and the other kids. She tells the other kids, "Look, the flag is still up. My uncle is coming with the water." Zainab said, my brother is out there. No one can touch him. He is a warrior amongst the warriors." Mullah Abbas is quickly running, and at one point, a lion takes an arrow and punctures the mashkiza. The water drains out, and Mullah Abbas just thinks about the little kids. Never in his life has he not fulfilled a wish of Bibi Sakina. The water drains out. He has nowhere to go, full of arrows. His Zuljana is full of arrows and bleeding to death. He falls down. The thing about Mullah Abbas was he didn't have arms. When you fall down, you usually catch yourself with your hands. But the thing is, Mullah Abbas did not have arms. When he fell down the horse, the only thing that caught him was his face and the arrows. The arrows caught his body. His body was neither floating or on the ground. His body was resting on these arrows. One way he would fall, the arrows would hold his back. He would fall onto his chest. The arrows would hold him from his chest. The flag had fallen with him. Zainab looks at it and sees the flag fall down. Sakina looks at the flag. She does not give hope. My uncle is coming with the water. Don't worry, he's coming with the water. Imam Hussain sees the flag go down. He quickly runs. When he's running, he can't really run. His back is broken from all the pain. He's crying. He can't think about his only brother. He can't think about his brother being killed in such a brutal way. He arrives at Mullah Abbas. He says, "Oh brother, what has happened to you?" He sees an arrow in his eye. He pulls the arrow out of his eye with so much pain. Imam Hussain says he broke his back from all the pain. He says he broke his back from all the pain. Now, Mullah Abbas said, "Oh master, I have a few wills. Please do not bring my body back to the camps." Now you might ask, why would he say that? It was because Mullah Abbas was so ashamed of not bringing back water. He was so ashamed that he didn't have the opportunity to fulfill the dream, to fulfill the Bibi Sakina's wishes of bringing water back for her and her friends, her thirsty little friends. So Mullah Abbas was very, 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 very embarrassed. And he said, "Just leave my body here. Don't bring it back. Just leave it out in the sands of Karbala." And Imam Hussain is crying. And he also said, "Brother, I have also one wish too. I have one wish, and this wish is that you, for your whole life, has called me master. You and your 4 brothers have always called me masters. I understand your mother, Bani, has raised you so that you may serve me. But at the end of the day, you are still my brother. If you can fulfill one wish, please do this one wish." Mullah Abbas says, "Oh brother, please do not give me a hard wish. It is my duty. It is my purpose of life to fulfill all your desires and to fulfill the desires of Allah. Please do not give me a difficult task." And Mullah Abbas says, and Imam Hussain says, "No, this is not a difficult task." He says, "Please, all your life you have been calling me master. For once, please call me your brother." And Mullah Abbas said, "Brother, this is a very hard task." He said, "Oh brother, peace and blessings be upon you. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah." Aba Abdullah said, "Wa alayka assalam Abul Fadl al-Abbas." He takes a flag back. Sakina said, "My uncle is still out there. He's coming back with water." She does not know where he is. All she knows is that he is bringing back water. Zainab knew Abbas was still out there. Zainab knew that he had been killed. Everyone knew, but Sakina still had hope. Till throughout the route to Sham, Kufa, Sakina kept her wills high. She said, "My uncle is still coming with water. My uncle is still alive. He is still coming to save us." وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنقَلَبٍ يَنقَلِبُونَ إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ عظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمصابنا بسيدنا ومولانا أبي عبد الله الحسين فاطمة الحسين.
Saka Sakina Bas Abbas, Saka Sakina Bas Abbas, Saka Sakina Bas Abbas, Zainab ka sahara Bas Saka Sakina Bas गालों पे तमाचे यूं ही खाती थी सकीना रो रो के फकत तुमको बुलाती थी सकीना आ जाओ खुदारा बास बास सकाए सकीना बास सकाए तुम थे मेरी चादर की मुहाफिज मेरे भैया तुम सो गए मैदान में मेरा चिन गया पर्दा सर खुल गया मेरा बास बास सकाए सकीना सकाए सकीना अब्बास अब्बास शबीर कसर गोश्त से जब काटा गया था खंजर के तले बाई ने दो बार कहा था आओ मेरे भैया अब्बास अब्बास सकाए सकीना अब्बास अब्बास या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन
Ya Hussein,
या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन
Ya
या
Hussein,
हुसैन
Ya Hussein,
या हुसैन
Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein.
मैं खाके करबला रुतबा मेरा जुदा है मैं खाके करबला रुतबा मेरा जुदा है मैं खाके करबला रुतबा मेरा जुदा है बिनते अली ने मुझको चादर बना लिया है मैं खाके करबला हूँ रुतबा मेरा जुदा है मैं खाके करबला हूँ रुतबा मेरा जुदा है करते हैं रश्क मुझ पर कौसर के भी किनारे ज़ैनब के सर में मैंने 2 साल है गुजारे मेरा हर एक जर्रा हर जुल्म का गवाह है मैं खाके करबला हूँ रुतबा मेरा जुदा है मैं खाके करबला हूँ रुतबा मेरा जुदा है अकबर जवान कासिम गाजी से चांद तारे ज़ैनब ज़ैनुल इबान मेरी आगोश में उतारे यानी लहू नबी का मुझ में मिला हुआ है मैं खाके करबला हूँ रुतबा मेरा जुदा है मैं खाके करबला हूँ रुतबा मेरा जुदा है शोहदाए करबला के जख्मों को मैंने चूमा ज़हरा की बेटियों के कदमों को मैंने चूमा इस वास्ते ही मेरी तासीर में शिफा है मैं खाके करबला हूँ रुतबा मेरा जुदा है मैं खाके करबला हूँ रुतबा मेरा जुदा है तो कीर तू भी कर ले आले अबा का मातम जो शाम में गई थी उस बेरदा का मातम ममनून मातमी की मखदूम फातिमा है मैं खाके करबला हूँ रुतबा मेरा जुदा है मैं खाके करबला हूँ रुतबा मेरा जुदा या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد السلام عليك يا رسول الله السلام عليك يا حبيب الله السلام عليك يا خيرة من خلق الله ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا سيدة فاطمة الزهراء. السلام عليك يا أبا محمد الحسن المجتبى. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام عليك وعلى أخيك أبي الفضل العباس، وعلى أختك الحوراء زينب، وعلى سائر الشهداء وأسيران كربلاء كوفة والشام جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام على التسعة المعصومين من ذرية الحسين عليه السلام: علي بن الحسين زين العابدين، ومحمد بن علي الباقر، وجعفر بن محمد الصادق، وموسى بن جعفر الكاظم، وعلي بن موسى الرضا، ومحمد بن علي الجواد، وعلي بن محمد الهادي، والحسن بن علي العسكري، والحجة بن الحسن القائم المهدي. عجل الله تعالى فرجك، وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك، وجعلنا الله من أنصارك وأعوانك والمستشهدين بين يديك. السلام عليكم أهل البيت النبوة جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Busy person, he cannot be a friend. He is totally different. क्या बेटा तुम कभी चाहो तो से इसका गोल भी वही कि आपके पत्नी है, इसके साथ टाइम दिया है, इसको पूरा दिन इसको इसके बेटी में छोटी बेटी को लेकर गया अपनी स्पेशल क्लास आपको नहीं मालूम पूरा टाइम इसका पूरा दिमाग चेंज किया है. He has मेरा विजन मेरा सोच लिया अल्लाह ये बोलता है इसने मुझे कहा कि why all these people मुझसे पत्र दिया पूरा लाइफ में मैंने कुछ नहीं किया अब